Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. And he said, "You of little faith, stop staring at your storms. Stop staring at your storms. You're going to be looking at your storms. You're going to be in the wind, but stop staring at your storms. Believe what the calmer of the storms is telling you." Well, good morning, men. So, and if you're visiting with us this morning, we are honored to have you in the building with us. And also, for those of you who are online, we're honored to have you with us as well. And as you know, we like to say hello to you with our traditional greeting. So on men, on 3, 1, 2, 3, hoorah! Men, honored to have you with us as well. So this morning, we are continuing in the book study. I want to make an announcement that next week, we will have a guest speaker, Jim Angelakos, our administrator's daughter, Dr. Christina Angelakos, and she will be here guiding you to become fire spreaders is the name of her message. And so look forward to having you with us for that. On the book study this week, we're going to be talking about fear. And first thing up, is fear a sin? So what do you think? Is fear a sin? Raise your hand if you think fear is a sin. Raise your hand if you think fear is not a sin. And then raise your hand if you're not sure. Okay. Yeah. So fears come in all shapes and sizes. I just put together, not really to delve into, but for the purposes of our talk here, there are physical fears. Fear of being injured, fear of illness, violence that might happen to us, disasters, natural disasters. We live in a hurricane corridor here. Fear of death, fear of the unknown, fear of losing control. Is she going to ever feel safe with me again? That was a fear of mine for 3 years. So my wife told me one night, I was reading a book, she was on her computer, I was minding my own business, it was quiet in the house, and I just hear this voice. She didn't even look up. She says, I don't feel safe with you anymore. I'm a guy. I'm going to fix that. I spent a couple of weeks working on it, kept asking her, do you feel safe yet? Do you feel safe yet? Every day. And she said, would you stop? 3 years. 3 years until she felt safe. So I spent 3 years wondering, fearing, anxiety, dread, is my wife ever going to feel safe with me again? Is AI going to take my job away? Is my job ever going to produce enough money so that I can get ahead of inflation? How am I going to be able to keep paying my rent and buy groceries unless I get a raise? Is it cancer? What kind of a world is it that my children are growing up in? These are natural human thoughts, and they create fear, and fear is normal. Fear is not a sin. Fear is a normal human emotion. Now, fear can lead to sin, and there's a difference between fear and a spirit of fear. We'll talk a little bit about that. So some people just have a spirit of fear, but even a spirit of fear is not necessarily sinful, but it can be sinful if we do certain things because of that. So physical and then relational and emotional issues, fear of rejection, being judged, fear of criticism, being found out, fear of abandonment. So you've heard me talk about this. My counselor, when I was 53, my mom died. I didn't feel anything. I wasn't sad. I didn't cry. I didn't miss her. So I went to see a counselor who helped me understand the childhood wounds that I'd never been able to articulate. And so she helped me to come to understand that even though my parents were in the home and nice people, I had experienced gross abandonment. well, when you say gross abandonment, I remember spending like, you're crazy, but not my parents. My parents are nice people. I spent 30 minutes defending them. But even though they were nice people, the effect was nevertheless that I grew up feeling abandoned. That's why I quit high school. That's why even till this day, I still walk with a limp because I'm always afraid that people will not really care about me. And so I'm a people pleaser. I've talked about that before. So these are the kinds of natural human emotions that create fear. And then existential and spiritual issues like fear of failure, feeling like my life is not going to have a purpose, feeling like, a fear that is everything really meaningless? Yeah, it is, by the way. And then death, meaningless, everything is meaningless, said Solomon, that apart from God, that the point of Solomon's teaching is that apart from God, yes, life has no meaning. And then the fear of death, and then the fear of God, a reverential fear. So there are all kinds of different fears, but the point here is that fear in and of itself is not a sin. And so there's a text in Proverbs 29:25 that I appeal to for my own life a lot. Fear of man will prove to be a snare. It doesn't say that fear of man is a sin. It just says that fear of man will prove to be a snare. But whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. And so there is this contrast and comparison that is being drawn between what happens when we're afraid of men and what men can do to us over against what happens when we put our trust in the Lord. He keeps us safe. So then let's talk a little bit about, okay, well, how do we handle fear then? How do we handle fear? If fear is part of the natural, normal human experience, how do we handle it? So Jesus tells us how to do that. In Matthew chapter 14, beginning at verse 22 on through 33, there's a story that Jesus had just finished feeding the 5,000. He was exhausted. He needed some me time. All right? He was a human Jesus, needed some me time. He needed some private time. And so he made, that's a command. The form of the Greek word there is a command. Jesus, immediately, he made the disciples get into the boat. It's interesting that the gospel writer says the boat. Apparently the boat was, really well known. It I don't know if it had a little name on the back, Jesus or something like that. But anyway, apparently everybody knew about the boat. Oh, we're going to go down to the boat. So Jesus immediately made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side while he dismissed the crowd. And then after he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. This is the normal practice of Jesus. Sidebar, it's a good normal practice for all of us. Whenever you're feeling like your margin has run out, call a timeout for a little me time. I told at least 2 men this week, I said the first priority in your life should be self-care. We include spiritual in that, but it's diet, it's sleep, it's exercise, it's some private time to restore yourself, and then your wife, if you're married, and then everything else. And so anyway, he was practicing what he is taught, and he took a little me time. Then in verse 23b and following, later that night, Jesus was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. So this is pretty interesting. Why did Jesus send them into a storm? Jesus is God. He knows everything. He knew there was going to be a storm on the water, and he commands them to go into a storm. I don't think I can explain that. But that's what happened. And so you will find yourselves in the middle of storms that Jesus knew that you were going to be in the middle of. And it was a situation where, because they had just been with Jesus, as the waves were beating against they were calm as could be and not worried about a thing because they were Christians. And that means that everything is going to be just fine. Well, actually, it says shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. That's the miracle in the story, is walking on water. It's one of the two miracles of walking on water here. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were saying, "Oh my gosh, he's finally here." Whew. It says they were terrified. They were terrified. They thought it was a ghost. They said, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. It's a normal human emotion. Now, Jesus then immediately says to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." He did not rebuke them for being afraid. He was not, "Oh my gosh, I am so disgusted with these disciples. After everything I've taught them, shared with them, done for them, look, they're afraid." No, he says, "Take courage, it is I." You don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be afraid. And then in the next verse, Peter, then, who we all love because of his fire-ready aim style, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." I mean, I don't even understand where that. I can't even imagine how that thought process would ever even come. I mean, is it like Peter ADD? I mean, what's going on here? ADHD? I mean, what is going on? And anyway, I guess Jesus sees an illustration in the making, because all he says is, "Come. Come," Jesus said. And then Peter got down out of the boat. He climbed out of the boat. The waves are buffeting against and he gets out of the boat and he walks on the water. So there's the second miracle. He walked on the water and came toward Jesus. So far, so good. However, when Peter saw the wind, he was afraid. So he saw the wind. He saw the reality of the situation. My wife is not willing to forgive me yet. I don't have enough money to make payroll today. I'm going to have to call the church and see if they have a deacon's fund so that I can buy some groceries for my children. He saw the wind. He saw the storm. He realized, it's a storm! What was I thinking? And he was afraid. And it's a normal human emotion, and it's not a sin. And then beginning to sink, okay, so he was afraid. Reality sunk in there. He began to sink. And so he cries out, "Lord, save me. Lord, save me." Last week with pride, it was, "Lord," it was, "God, have mercy on me, a sinner." Simple, honest, raw, emotional prayers. This week, it's another simple, raw, emotional prayer. "Lord, save me." And immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. And he said, "You of little faith, why did you doubt? You of little faith, why did you doubt?" He could have said, when Jesus said, "Lord, save me," "Peter, I'm going to save you, but Let me ask you a question. Were you born stupid, or are you just having a stupid attack? Jesus never does that. He never does that. And this is a bit of a rebuke, but if it's a rebuke, it's a very gentle rebuke. Oh, Peter, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? Why did you look at the storm? Why did you believe the storm instead of... I said to you, take courage. It is I, don't be afraid. So why didn't you listen to me? I'm the calmer of the storm. Why did you not listen to me? Why did you look at the wind? The wind was there. The wind was not going to go away. The storm was there. The storm is not going to... Whatever storm you have, it's not going to go away just because you look at Jesus. But I'm going to take care of you if you will keep your eyes on me, if you will believe what I'm telling you instead of looking at the storm. I'm looking around the room. I mean, I know some of your storms. I don't know all of your storms, but I know a lot of your storms. And fear comes with those storms. That's part of life. If you came here this morning hoping that you would walk out of here and your fear would be gone, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. You are still going to have fear. But what we can do is we can ameliorate, is that a right way to say it? We can mitigate the fear by understanding that alongside the fear, alongside the storm, we have the calmer of the storm with us at all times. So fear, yes, and the antidote to fear is courage. Courage is the quality or state of mind that enables one to face hardship or disaster with confidence and resolution. That's what courage is. And the opposite of courage is fear. It's being paralyzed or partially paralyzed because some situation is coming at us. We're in a storm, or a storm is coming, and we see the wind, and we're paralyzed. We don't know what to do. We're afraid. And so the message from Jesus is, take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Come. When you say, Lord, save me, I will say, come. And then the men were watching, and Jesus and Peter climbed into the boat. And the wind died down. And the wind died down. There had been a similar story earlier in Matthew chapter 8 where they had all been about. Jesus was asleep on a pillow in the front of the boat, and there's this big storm, and they woke him up and said, "Don't you care for who he died, Jesus?" And he calmed the winds. And do you remember what the disciples said? They said, "What kind of man is this, that even the winds obey his voice? What kind of man is this?" So they'd already had some experience. So they graduated as they were growing as disciples, and I hope we are growing as disciples too. This time, with a previous experience, they said, then those who were in the boat, they worshiped him. They worshiped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God. Truly you are the Son of God." So I don't know what kind of storm you're in. I don't know what kind of fear you have to live with. I know what kind of fears that I have to live with, and I have my fears. But I will say that the big idea today is my reality. I was telling somebody before, I was telling Joshua, our videographer before. I said, I'm having a little bit of a problem with some of these messages because at the time I originally gave the messages, I was in the middle of the issue, but I'm not afraid anymore of what's going to happen. I have the fears, but I don't even need faith. This sounds crazy. I don't need faith to believe in God because I have experience. I have knowledge of God. I don't need faith. I mean, I have faith, but I have faith because of what I know, not because of me believing in something in spite of what I don't know. So the disciples were getting there too, and they were able to say, truly, you are the Son of God. And they worshiped him. And they were still in the storm, remember? So it did say the winds had died down, but they had just come through this horrible storm. And they worshiped him. And so when God delivers you from whatever storm you're in, whether that be in this life or the next, we don't know. But when God delivers you from that storm, you can worship him. In fact, you can worship him now because you know how the story ends. Big idea for the day. Stop staring at your storms. Stop staring at your storms. You're going to be looking at your storms. You're going to be in the wind, but stop staring at your storms. Believe what the calmer of the storms is telling you. Believe. Have faith. Trust what the calmer of the storms is telling you. Have courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Oh, you have little faith. Why did you doubt? Now, I was trying to picture the people who would be in the middle of a storm, who would be terrified, not just a little bit afraid, but terrified or filled with dread. I mean, I have about one day a week, I wake up and I have a sense of dread about things that may be an emotional illness I have, I'm not sure, but some of you do that too. And so when I was putting the big idea together, I kept going back and forth this morning about, over a dozen times, literally over a dozen times. And I thought about maybe I should have said, but I decided not to say. I thought about saying, brothers, instead of staring at your storms, believe what the calmer of the storms is saying to you. But I thought you'd be better able to remember the big idea if I just said, stop staring at your storms. Jesus loves you so much, and he wants you to believe, to put your faith, to have courage, to put your faith in him, to trust him. And so stop. And it's not a pejorative. It's not angry. It's tone of voice. Stop staring at your storms. I exhort you, I implore you. Stop staring at your storms. And then believe what the calmer of the storms is telling you. He's telling you, here and elsewhere, no matter what happens, that he's going to take care of you. Again, whether in this life or the next, we're not sure. So, what is your storm? What is your storm? And then a couple of thoughts. From Proverbs chapter 3, verses 25 and 26. The first time that I remember actually being delivered from intense fear, I had put together a shopping. some of you know my first career was real estate development. Actually, if you've been listening, all of you would know that by now. I've said it so many times. So listen up. But I had bought an old shopping center and I converted it. I'd upped it, remodeled it and everything. And I brought some investors into the deal. We're going to make a fortune. Until the major tenant, which occupied half of the space, decided to move out. And I remember the fear that I had. Everything. I'm a young guy. My reputation is on the line. The investor's money is on the line. My business is on the line. If that deal fell apart, my understanding was that was the end of me. I didn't realize that life could go on, at that point. So I'm reading the book of Proverbs. Somebody told me to do it. 31 chapters, read a chapter a day. So I was on day 3, the third of the month, and I'm reading Proverbs chapter 3. And I'm looking for a word from God. I'm looking for a word from the calmer of the storms. And he gave it to me. And I'm giving it to you in case you don't already have this. Proverbs 3, 25 and 26. Have no fear of sudden disaster, or of the ruin that overtakes the wicked. For the Lord will be at your side, just like he was with Peter. And he will keep your foot from being snared. He will keep your foot from being pulled underwater. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7. The Spirit, the Holy Spirit that God has given us, is not one that makes us timid or fearful. Same idea. But he gives us a spirit that gives us power and love and self-discipline. Big idea for the day. Stop staring at your storms. Stop staring at your storms. Believe what the calmer of the storms is telling you. I will take care of you. You're going to have fear. This is not a message about taking away a natural human emotion. This is not a message to tell you that if you're afraid, you're not trusting God and you're a sinner. That's just not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches that fear, Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, the spirit is willing, the flesh is weak. Jesus was on death row, and he was afraid. He had agonia, agony, dread. Hematidrosis, which is the sweating of blood, medically documented phenomenon. I doubt any of us will ever, unless you face the firing squad, I doubt any of us will ever experience agony any greater than what Jesus experienced in the garden. And the message is, don't be afraid. Take courage. I'm here. Stop staring at the storm. Whatever storm you have. Is it your wife is separated? Is it that you are passed over several times? You haven't been respected. You haven't been appreciated. Whatever the storm, a health issue that you're going through, whatever the storm is, stop staring at the wind and start believing the calmer of the wind. Lord Jesus, we thank you for your word, which speaks a word of truth to us. Help us to be men of faith who end up on the cliff of courage and not the cliff of fear. And Lord, this is not a once-for-all message. This is something that we need to have your Spirit remind us of on a regular basis, often, daily, more than daily, that you have not given us a spirit of timidity and fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. And we can be courageous when we don't stare at the storm, but we listen to you. So help us to do that now. We ask this, Jesus, in your name, and we worship you, for truly you are the Son of God. Amen.